We're going to go ahead and kick it off because I know everybody can't stay and we are a little bit behind. We had some issues with the sound in Discord, so hopefully everything will work out, but I believe it will. So thank you for joining us. This is our first event of the brand new year. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year gets kind of like a little old after, like 2 weeks into it, but still, Happy New Year. From myself, Andrew and Mark, we're the admins of the Sinkhole. Was just talking to Sherry. We started this about October timeframe, November. Just the ideas that we've had. Andrew kind of spearheaded everything, but Mark and I were having thoughts about doing something like this ourselves, but with jobs and family and whatnot, it was just too much of a task for us, as individuals to do it. So we all decided to team up and just to have resources for people in sync, whether you're brand new, a beginner, or you're advanced, or at a higher level. So yeah, we're just here for that, just to build this sense of community. And so we actually, because as we said, we have it's hard for us to keep our eyes on everything. So we just added our first. I don't know if he's in here, a moderator. His name in the group is it's hilarious. Is Jelly Crackers, but his name is Steve. But yeah, Steve is very he knows what he's doing. He has a lot of experience, a whole lot of placements. And so he's gonna help us, just keep eyes on everything. Cause like I said, with everything going on, I don't see everything like Andrew, he's a Discord expert. Like he may not admit it, but he is. Like I'm still learning the platform, and so I don't see everything. I don't know where to even look all the time as well. So we do have help, and we're glad for that. And continue, like I said, to engage on the channels. Each channel just is catered to a certain topic. If you have any questions about what goes where, feel free to message us or things like that. But without further ado, I want to introduce our guest here tonight, this evening, depending on your time zone. We have Sherry. I'll let her kind of introduce herself, but Sherry is last month we had this is all new to us in general, but I interviewed an artist last month, Kendall. The videos on our page on YouTube, and she did she set the bar high, extremely high for events in the future. And so but that was my first time ever meeting her, speaking with her. And so but she did a great job, whereas with Sherry, I kind of have like a rapport with Sherry. Like we've talked about some really deep things, so it's kind of like it's more of a conversation as opposed to like an interview, a conversation with just a friend of mine. And so I first saw Sherry, like I heard her name in the taxi community. Myself, Andrew, Mark, Sherry, and a few others, have been a part of that community and have met each other with that. They have an annual event every year in LA. I think Sherry was on a panel at the rally. This is before COVID, so the last in-person rally pre-COVID. You were on a panel with some heavy hitters. And I'm like, okay, like I've heard the name, but if she's in the company of these people, then she knows her stuff. Like there's no way. And so when's the next one? That's a good question. The next rally, it's every November. So you have some time. I've gone a few times, but like I said, from 2020 to until just last year, it was all online, virtual. And so yeah, that's every November. I'm sure as it gets closer, we'll post more information about it. But yeah, I saw Sherry there. We connected on Facebook, but didn't really talk really until actually George Floyd. And I won't go into what we talked about with that topic, but we had some great dialogue, and just ever since then, I would say we've been cool. And so that's, I thought that she was just with her journey and her music and just her passion for life. I thought that she'd be a great person to have here tonight. So yeah, welcome, Sherry.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. And also, I feel pressure, but also
Nah,
honored.
no, no, there's no pressure. There's no pressure. You're just amongst peers, you know what I'm saying? So um, it'll be a very lighthearted depending on where you want to take it. I know we kind of joked about, what's off guard, what's off
Don't
topic,
worry,
what's not. But yeah, no, but it's all
I'll
good.
keep it
So
I'll keep it tame.
it's all good. You have a very like interesting journey, very, very interesting journey. So you were born in Canada and you had a birthday just recently. Happy belated birthday. So you were born
Thank
in
you.
Canada, you were raised in, and I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, Mauritius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for those that don't
The only
know,
place a dodo bird ever lived.
really,
Yes. If
okay,
you've
that's
heard of the
facts.
dodo bird, that extinct bird, that's the only place
Definitely
it
heard of
ever
the
lived.
dodo bird. Okay, that's the only place it ever lived. Okay, and where is that island? If for those that don't know,
It's east of Madagascar in the Indian Ocean, so it's a third of the way between Africa and Australia,
a third of the way. So you, oh,
approximately.
okay,
It's like out
cool.
there.
Oh, is out there. That's what I'm saying. So you born in Canada, raised there in Mauritius. You went back to Canada for college, and now you're in LA. And so, can
Yep.
you just tell me or tell us about that journey? Because how does one, end up like how do you start in Canada and end up halfway across the world? Like, was it your family? Like, was it a job opportunity for your family, or was it like how does that happen?
Yeah. So my parents had immigrated to Canada right before I was born. Um, and at the time, there was no Skype, there was no internet, so it was really hard to keep in touch with family. So my mom was a little homesick. And then after she had me, I was a really fat, big baby. And I think I broke her back or something because she was like bedridden for a while. She couldn't work. And my dad was not making enough money for them to actually, survive in comfortably there. And then because my mom was also sick and then the family was far away, they decided to move back when I was 2. So I grew up in Mauritius, where most of my family is. And then I went back to Canada for my college because I was born there, so I'm Canadian, which means I pay Canadian fees for tuition, which is awesome. So my entire college degree cost me less than 1 year would have cost me in the US. So, like my last year, I think my first year of college was like $1,500. And then my last year, I think that was the most expensive. It was under $8,000 Canadian. So, college was cheap compared to here. Um,
Very
and
cheap. Wow,
then
that's
yeah,
impressive. Yeah.
yeah. So then I actually graduated in computer science. I've always been a nerdy kid, and I got a job at a startup. The startup got acquired by Apple. So I got a job offer at Apple basically right out of college. And it was like, I don't even know what's happening. Is this real? Like, what? But okay, sure, I'll move to California. So I moved to the Bay Area, worked at Apple for 4.5 years. When I was in the Bay Area, the first thing I do anytime I move anywhere is I go find musicians. I go to open mics. I go find my people. So I started going to open mics there, and I met the person who then became my duo partner and husband. So we've been making music for a while, and then both of us were kind of getting bored of tech. And I've always loved music more than anything. And I was finally at a place where I had the opportunity and I had the means to do it. Because before, like my entire life, I was trying to make my family proud. I was trying to help them make sure my brother could get a college education as well, not just me. So once that was done and I didn't have those extra financial responsibilities, I'm like, now maybe I could do something for myself. So I decided that I was going to leave tech and do music. And the way I think about it is I don't think careers need to be static. So yes, I left tech, but that doesn't mean that I'm leaving it forever. I might go back someday. I don't know. we'll see where it leads. But we decided to leave tech in 2018 and then focus on music and sync licensing. And since most of the industry is in LA, we decided to move down here because it's actually cheaper than the Bay Area to live in LA, believe it or not. Because we were coming to LA, I think 3-4 times a year at least for various events. You know, all the conferences were in LA. So we're like, we're going there all the time. Rent is cheaper there. We might as well move. So there I am. That's how I got here.
Okay, that helps me. So yeah, you're definitely you're well traveled. So you're very cultured as well. You just had a lot of exposure to a lot of different things and languages and music and food and everything, right? Like over the years. So that's so you mentioned that wherever you kind of like end up, you find musicians there. How did that like first start? Like where did music find you in your journey? Like in life?
I think I've always been into music. My earliest memory I have in life ever is coming back from kindergarten and singing all the songs I learned in kindergarten while my mom was making dinner. And I just was one of those kids who would sing all the time. I wouldn't shut up. And I think throughout my life, every time I heard music, I was just like mesmerized by it. I wanted to do it. I wanted to sing. I wanted to dance. I started taking Chinese ballet classes when I was, I think, 6, and then I started piano at 8. When I was 14, there was this radio contest in Mauritius where you would call in. It was like the local version of Idol before Idol was a thing. So you call in, you sing a song, and then they would select the 10 or 12 best or whatever, and then those people would go on TV for the finale. So I wanted to participate, but I'm a kid, so I have to get my mom's permission. And she's like, well, I would let you, but unfortunately, this is a contest for people who write their own songs. And, unfortunately, you don't have your own song, so I can't let you participate. And she thought like she nailed it, right? Because she said no without being her saying no. And I was like, I bet I could write a song. So that night I went up to my room and I wrote my first song, and then I didn't stop. And then after that, I started learning guitar. And yeah, I make this joke that all I wanted to do was sing, but then I learned to play the piano so that I could accompany myself. Then I learned to write the song so that I could sing it. And then I learned to produce so I could have the song out. And then I learned to mix it. So all that just to be able to sing.
No, that's dedication right there. So you didn't even at an early age, you didn't let anything hold you back. Like if this requires me to write my own songs, I don't know even what that means or how to do it, but I'm gonna learn. And so that's that's dope. that's super dope. Very, very dope. You mentioned too that LA you wound up there with your husband because LA is like I guess I don't know if you use the word, but it's kind of like the hub of the sync industry, or it's a very popular place for
Very
the sync
active.
industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hence, like the annual rally with Taxi and whatnot. So where in your journey did you like find sync licensing, and like how did that come about for you?
Yeah, before I left my tech job, I planned for about a year. So I had decided like a year ahead that I wanted to leave. So I was trying to find, what is out there? What kind of income can I make? What various income streams can I look at? And sync definitely came up as one of the most lucrative side of music. So I started looking into that. I took some courses just to learn, the basics like metadata and all that stuff. Joined Taxi. I hung out on the forum a little bit. I joined the Facebook groups. I was just trying to learn everything I can. Yeah, that's how that came about.
Okay, that's dope. No, that's really, yeah. I think a lot of artists and writers, producers, all inclusive, I think they don't know like the benefits of sync licensing and just the opportunities that are there, and the possibilities. And so that's cool that you were kind of, up on that even prior to your move. And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's dope. We mentioned, or you mentioned, or no, actually in the chat it was mentioned, resort to love. And so I think before I even saw your post on Facebook back then, so Resort to Love was a film on Netflix. I think it might still be on there. It came out the summer, fall of 2021. And so my only context of, the island of, Mauritius was Sherry, because I was like, oh yeah, Sherry was lived there. And so even when the movie, my wife and I on Friday night, that's kind of our thing. On Friday nights after a long week, we just unwind and watch a movie. I'm like, oh, okay, this place is beautiful. Wow. Like, and so I didn't know that you actually had, like, you helped out with the film. Can you like explain that? Like on your post, or on your web, on a post back then, you said that you helped to find and clear some of the licenses for authentic music, for that film. How did the opportunity come about? And is that like kind of like, were you like a music supervisor, like in a sense?
No, I was like an agent for the artist. So that was complete serendipity. I met Dan Koplowitz, who is the owner of Friendly Fire Licensing Company. So he's an agent and he reps a lot of world music. I had met him at a listening session, I would say in maybe 2017. I want to say 2017, maybe early 2018. I think 2017. And then I met him again in person in LA at Sync Summit. So when I met him there, I just said hi, kind of catch up. And he was talking about world music that he represents. And so I said, have you ever heard of Mauritian Sega? Because it's a world music genre that I'm pretty sure nobody else has heard, unless you're Mauritian or you know Mauritians, you've never heard of it, right? Because it's such a small island. And of course, he hadn't heard of it. So I was explaining to him, a little bit about the genre. And I said, if you're interested, I could send you a playlist just for you to hear it because you like world music. It's probably going to be fun. And he said, yeah. So I did. I sent him a list of YouTube video, a YouTube playlist. And I didn't, we had a few email exchanges and then I didn't hear back from him for a while. 3 years later, I get a random email out of the blue from Dan and he says, hey, remember you sent me, Mauritian Sega? Well, I have a brief for Mauritian Sega and I was wondering if you could connect me with some artists. And I'm like, you have a brief for Mauritian Sega? Like, what is happening? Because like most people don't even know where that country is. Like, how does that happen? I had no idea. When I sent him that playlist, there was no motive. It was just, I think you'll find this cool because you like world music. And then, out of the blue, he's like, hey, yeah, I need to get some Mauritian music. And I was like, oh, okay, I gotcha. So, Mauritius has, like, the PRO in Mauritius does not even have a website. That's how advanced we are over there. Actually, the PRO does not even have a president right now. They've been looking for somebody to be in charge of that thing forever.
I think you could be
So,
the president, probably. I think you're qualified. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, but yeah.
I thought about applying, but like I'm too far. But yeah, like it's hard to track down people when there isn't any online repository where you can get those, and the contracts are very different there. Most of the artists can speak enough English to get by, but yeah, it would have been hard for them to get in touch with people fast and also, know the publishers, know the labels and all of that stuff. And because I've known a lot of the musicians there and I know a lot of the producers there, it was really easy for me to connect with them and say, hey, we're looking for this and that. Do you have anything? And yeah, that's how I accidentally became an agent for one movie.
But that's so cool because that shows you that this business is built off relationships, right? Like, and that's kind of like a common thing that you hear, like, oh, I had an exchange, and 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, that placement happened or that connection happened. That's just the name of this game, unfortunately. So if you don't have patience, it's just kind of hard to kind of navigate that. But that's how this business is. But that's super cool because like I watched the movie knowing that you were raised there, but I didn't watch it knowing that you worked on that you helped with the music. So that was because I saw your post after I watched the movie. I'm like, oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
that was really exciting for so many reasons. I mean, if you had told me even 5 years ago that there would be a movie made by Netflix in Mauritius and they actually didn't pretend it was Hawaii, like I would have been like, no way, you know? So that was cool, just seeing my country in there, and then be able to be a part of it. That was so cool. Yeah, definitely a highlight.
That's very cool. And then yeah, like so besides so that's cool. Like, did you ever get like a chance to see it early, or did you watch it with everybody else when it was released?
I watched it with everybody else.
Everybody else. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which that's understandable. It's totally understandable. So besides that film, which is like a good film, like say like if you haven't seen it and you like rom-coms, this it's a little cheesy, but I think it was a good movie. A cool plot as well. So besides that film and your work on that, like what other highlights or placements or things that you have helped with, stand out?
Um, so I have a really cool one that's coming up, but I don't want to say it because, in sync, you never know. People can change their mind at the last minute. So like, I probably shouldn't say it until it's out. But other than that, last year I did a French top line for a music library. And that top line ended up being used on almost every episode of this reality show called Real Girlfriends in Paris. So it was really cool because I got to use a skill that fewer people have here, which is writing in French. And and it's not something that I have been doing a lot, so it was fun to just do more of it. I wrote two songs for that show. One of them is in almost every episode, and then the other one is in the last episode. So that was really cool to get that consistency in the placements. Last year, I also scored the final scene and end credits for a short film. So that was really fun, where I worked with the director and the producer to come up with a song based on a reference track that they gave me, and they were pretty happy with that. So that was really fun. Other than that, I have a few placements with Young and Restless. Trying to think. I have some like really old ones, but those aren't great. I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, it all counts,
But
right?
but I have, I'm represented by I think 7 or 8 different libraries and agents for various things. So I think it's it's starting to get to the point where they're getting placements, but like it's been a lot of years just building catalog and sending it out there, and then it's just sitting there and waiting.
That I don't know if who I was telling, but yeah, it's more the writing, producing, whatever, than it is placements. Like, yeah, the placements when people like your family and friends see placements happening like back to back. Oh man, you're killing it. Well, it's like, oh, this was a 5 year process of me just sending out emails,
Yeah.
no responses. You know what I'm saying? So that's just kind of, once again, that's the name of this game. That's how this thing rolls.
Yeah. I think if you compare it to a regular job, a placement is like getting a promotion. Like you don't get a promotion every week, right? Um, it's you grind a lot, and then sometimes you get promotion, and then if you get a recurring one like I did, which is really awesome when you get it. It's more like if the company gave you stock, right? Like you don't always get it, but it's really nice when you do. but you can't always like you don't expect it to come all the time. I think that's the frustrating part for a lot of people starting out. It's like, when is it gonna come? When am I gonna get a placement? And it takes time. Just gotta crank out more stuff.
Yeah, no, that's true. It takes a lot of time. Like it's not overnight. Like when you invest in this and sync licensing, like you have a being a part of this community, like you have a lot of people to kind of encourage you along the way because it can get really, you could be hard on yourself. Like, oh man, I'm just you're working and grinding and not seeing results. But if you can just hold out and be patient, like it's coming, So no, that's super cool to hear. I want to go back to something that you said. You speak French, and so you wrote a top line for a French show. What I know you speak, like, is it four languages? Three
Three.
languages? Three.
I
So
speak English, French, Mauritian Creole. I know a few words of Hakka and Mandarin. Like Hakka is a Chinese dialect,
mhm.
but like really little, just like food related and family related stuff.
No, that's dope. That's dope. So do you like tap into the like of course you kind of answered this, but like as apart from the French music, have you like done any other type of music? Like any how do you say it? Mauritian, is it
Mauritian
Sega?
Sega.
Sega. Yeah.
I have done a cover of Mauritian Sega. I haven't done like an actual Sega genre piece.
Mhm.
I always felt a little uncomfortable with it because Sega music was created by the descendants of slaves that were brought to Mauritius during the colonial times. So it was a music that was kind of born out of that pain that came with that. And since then, Mauritian Sega is music for all Mauritians, but I always felt like, I didn't, I'm not part of that heritage, and I always felt a little awkward trying to be part of that. So I haven't done it, but I know I have a few other friends who, they are Black and they are Sega artists and they have encouraged me to do it. So maybe a collaboration sometime I will do it. But I have written a song in Creole. I haven't released it yet. That will be part of my EP potentially.
Okay, that's no, that's helpful to hear and to know like the reasons why, because even yeah, that's very helpful to know. So you okay, so with the there was a question by Mark. Mark says I assume I could be wrong. Was the French from being like in Canada because you left very very young? So did you learn French overseas or in Canada?
No, in Mauritius, French is actually the main
Oh,
language
okay.
people use. Like the TV is all in French, radio's in French, newspapers were all in French. But then we learned English in school for like, math and everything was taught in English. So we were actually raised trilingual. And then, yeah, and then most other people there speak some Asian language. I do not. But I have friends who speak like five languages, six languages, and I'm like, I don't really speak Chinese.
No, but I mean three. I mean, I speak one. You know what I'm saying? So that's not like but no, but three. Just yeah, it's amazing. Just the fact that you know and that you learn and that they teach that over there. That's super cool. So just being in all the places that you've been, Canada, Mauritius, LA. Who are your influences? Because you've been exposed to a lot, throughout your lifetime. So who do you like to listen to? Who are you? Like when you're making music for sync, like who's in your mind, I guess, as you're creating music.
Yeah. As you said, I've been exposed to a lot of music, so I always have trouble answering, who are your influences, like how much time you got. But for sync specifically, I I usually have a reference track, right? When you get a brief, usually there's a couple of reference tracks. So I just try to understand, what do I like about this track? What's the drum sound like, or what's the vocal treatment? What vocal layers are going on? So yeah, it's kind of hard to answer. What I tend to gravitate towards is things with a lot of vocal layers because that's my favorite thing to do in the world. So when Billie Eilish came on and she had like a whole bunch of stacks of everything, I was like, yes, more stacks. I like it. But I also really like cinematic stuff. I'm still not great with MIDI strings. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm working on it. But I do want to do more of the cinematic kind of trailerized stuff. I've done a vocal for hire for a trailer library, like a trailerized version of a Tom Petty song. Oh, I also work part time for a trailer library, but that's aside. So yeah, I love anything cinematic. Sorry, that's not a very good answer. I'm very vague.
No, this is not vague at all. This is very helpful. It's very helpful because yeah, when I hear your music, I think singer songwriter, but I could tell just by the places you've lived and been, like that's not like the end all be all of your style. So that's why I was just curious.
Yeah, so with 23rd Hour, which is my duo with my husband, it's kind of more throwback jazz inspired singer-songwriter because that's his influences are like Beatles, Paul Simon, and then all jazz like Duke Ellington and all that stuff. And then so that duo is a blend of kind of more acoustic driven singer-songwriter but with jazz elements to it. And then I'm creating new artists for me, Lazoo, and for that one, I want to have a more modern, like pop, cinematic sound, which I'm still working on defining, actually.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's super dope. Okay, so you have a myriad of influences and even like outlets with your husband with the duo and then with the new direction that you're headed. That's cool.
Yeah.
What this is for like all the techies out there, all the people like Mark and Andrew and the people like that. Because I'm just a top liner, lyricist, vocalist, rapper, so I don't really know about this stuff. But what are your favorite plugins and VSTs?
Well, one of the most useful plugins I have is Reference 4 for my Sonar for mixing. So if you're mixing and your space isn't perfect, it kind of balances out the frequencies and it even has presets for all the common headphones. So you can hear your mix kind of at a flat EQ curve. So that's super helpful for mixing. I have the Isotope production suite and the Melodyne, whichever Melodyne Studio. Like those are I've been using a lot lately. I started using the Slate mix rack as well. I'm still not quite super familiar with it, but I've started using that. VSTs, I'm actually kind of a minimalist when it comes to VSTs because I feel like if I get more, will just know them less. So I use a lot of stock Logic ones. I use Spitfire audio. I have a bunch of the labs. I have the BBC Orchestra. I do have a few others. I have the Ivory Piano. I have East West, but I don't really use them that much. So I would say most of the time it's Spitfire and mostly Logic stuff. And then because 23rd Hour is a lot of acoustic instruments, we end up playing like guitar and bass and all that stuff. So yeah, kind of
Okay.
a minimalist when it comes to VSTs.
Yeah. No, that's totally no, that's I mean, like I don't think there's a right or wrong way, right? So you do what fits you. And so that's dope.
Yeah.
I just wanna so I
And
have a few no, yep, you can go.
oh, I was gonna say, and then I sample some stuff too. Like I used a pencil and a business card and a jar, and like I'll just sample stuff and add little layers here and there.
Okay, that's dope. That's good. Super cool. I just have a few more questions. Then I want to open up the floor. There's some family in here. What up, Terrell? This is a guy who's seen the journey from start to now. So, and Rosemary too, as well. And Tasha as well too. So yeah, so like I want to open up because we have some really talented people here. So I'm sure they want to pick your brain as well and stuff.
Sure.
So I just have a few more, and then we might. Andrew said that we could probably, if people have to hop off or whatnot, we could probably keep the Zoom open if people want to exchange information or network and stuff like that too. So that's a possibility as well. And so Sherry, with somebody who's been doing this for a while, for a few years, you left tech, to, go all out in sync. What are some mistakes that you would tell someone who's just starting out, to look out for or to avoid, or what's some things that you have learned along the way that have been helpful to you?
Um, I would say if you're really just starting out, understand the back end, like the business side, how things work, understand royalties. And by the way, if you don't understand royalties because they're super complicated, I made a bunch of blogs that break it down for you. I can post them in the Sinkhole Discord at some, after this. But understanding those things can really set you up because when somebody comes up to me for a collab and then at some point I realize that they don't understand how royalties work, it kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I will educate them and I will teach it to them, but like I always feel a little iffy about, well, are they gonna come back and think that they were supposed to get more money, that like did they not understand what the contract was? And I've had a couple of collabs where that happened, where we didn't get into any fights or anything, but I just realized after the fact that they didn't quite understand like master versus publishing, and the people who work on the master, like that's a whole separate thing, and then the publishing is a whole separate thing. So knowing the business side is really, really helpful. Mistakes, I probably spent too much money on courses. But I mean, you know, it was helpful to do some courses, definitely. Were some of them overpriced? Absolutely. So there is a lot of free information out there. I guess do your research and ask people for reviews. So there's a lot of us who have done a lot of those courses. Just DM us privately and ask, hey, did you do this course? What did you think? And, if you DM people privately, we'll probably tell you. Not to throw shade at anybody, but, especially if you're on a tight budget, there might be some cheaper options out there. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That's very helpful.
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and then, okay, when you start in sync, you will be tempted to try everything. Like if you join Taxi, you're gonna see all the listings and you're gonna be like, hey, maybe I could try making like a Chinese pop song. Who knows? And you should try it out. Just know that most of them will not pan out because they will not be your forte and you will not enjoy making them. And that's fine. It's part of the process of figuring out what you're good at. And also, when you start doing sync, you're probably going to write some terrible songs that are super on the nose that will never go anywhere. And you will want to bury them so deep in the ground so that nobody ever hears them. And that's also part of the process. So do it. I have some songs that I created and that I actually spent money to produce. And then I'm like, why did I even think that was even half good to spend money on? So it is all part of the process. I don't think you can get good at writing for sync without being bad at writing for sync. And I think initially when you take those courses, especially, you're going to think oh, okay, I need to change everything about my songwriting. I can just, write only like those happy-go-lucky things and, whatever. Like all these things are true. You write those to those themes. But I think it takes some practice and it takes some self-discovery as an artist to figure out what that means for you that is authentic. And you can hear me say it and you can say yes in your head, but I guarantee you, if you're new to it, you're going to do exactly what everybody did. You're going to have some terrible songs that are super on the nose and they're not quite there and they're never going to go anywhere, but it's part of the process. So, yeah, don't be afraid to make crappy stuff at the beginning. And one mistake that I have made a lot and that I keep making is that sometimes I'm too afraid to make mistakes. I to the point where I over research and I over analyze and I over like everything, and I don't end up getting more done. Like I could have, not worried about it so much and then get more done. So this is one thing that I am personally working on that I'm still not very good at. Yeah, being very very transparent there. Like I could spend like 2 days researching a supervisor before I send an email, and then I'm like, I didn't do anything in 2 days. Don't be like me.
Great advice. That's some solid advice. There are so many gems that you just dropped, and like I can't wait till this is edited and whatnot because I want to watch this back because that was some gems that you dropped. You've been dropping gems the whole time, honestly, but no, that was some dope advice that you gave us here tonight. So I've never asked you this. So there was a blog that you made about 2 years ago. It was titled, and I think we linked her blogs and the podcast in the announcements, but we'll put it up again at the very end. But things people say to Asian Americans at conferences, at music conferences. So yeah, so there was a blog you posted a blog. I read it, and I was going to ask you to help to collaborate on something that you mentioned in there, K-pop. Actually, my friend Devin, who was just here, who had to leave early, I met her at a camp last year for K-pop. So there was a brief, it was a singer-songwriter type brief for K-pop. I'm like, yo, Sherry does that type of music. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask her though, because she doesn't like to be asked about this genre. People assuming that just because she's Asian American that she does this kind of music. So I ain't gonna lie, I hesitated to ask you to collaborate on that song because I didn't want to be
No,
that
not at
guy.
all.
And so yeah,
No, so
yeah, you can go ahead.
so just for context, what I meant in that blog is that sometimes when I go to conferences and people ask me what kind of music I make, and they seem kind of surprised that I make the same kind of music that they do, because like I look Asian, and I'm like, dude, I've never lived in Asia, you know, I don't even speak an Asian language, so it's kind of annoying when people ask me why don't you go into an Asian genre? Like, stop what you're doing. Like, all the English stuff, it doesn't fit you. Go do the Asian thing. That's when I feel like it's very, like, you're a foreigner, you know? I love collaborating with anybody on anything, but I think sometimes when the way people say those things, it makes you feel like, oh, you don't see me as an American artist. You see me as an Asian artist, even though I've never lived in Asia. I don't speak an Asian language. I'm technically African, you know? So that's when it feels awkward. And also, it's kind of like when people ask me, where are you really from? I'm like, well, Canada? No, where are you really from? Mauritius? No, but like, where are your grandparents from? And I'm like, how far back are we going? Like, what? You know? So that's when it gets annoying, because the point then is to make it, it feels like I don't belong here when people say that. But I'm happy to collaborate on K-pop. I've been watching K-dramas lately.
Oh, yeah. So no, that's a great so how you explain that. So did that blog and the anger, I guess, and frustrations that you felt from that blog, did that birth the podcast? Because I know your podcast, Nuances, is kind of geared to AAPI, issues and whatnot.
I guess I had been thinking about that whole issue since 2020, with the Kung flu virus and all that crap. But I think eventually when I met Ariadne the next year after I wrote that blog, we talked about our experiences in the music industry because there's not that many, at least we didn't know many other Asian Americans. So like it's always kind of funny to meet another one of us. And it was interesting that we're treated very similarly. Like she had a lot of those same experiences, but also we have very different cultures because she's Filipino and I'm Chinese. And there's like very, in some ways, we're very different. So the podcast, we just wanted to highlight the different cultures that exist in the Asian community, but also, I've been thinking about that whole anti-Asian thing that's been happening and trying to figure out, first of all, why does it happen? Because I've had very hurtful comments from people that we both know. And, and I was just like completely taken aback by it. And I was like, how? And sometimes it's not even intentional, it's just ignorance. And I was like, why does it happen? And what do we do to fix it? And I feel like my solution is having people relate to us on an individual level. Because a lot of times, if you don't know a lot of Asian people, all you know is the stereotypes, right? We're good at math, we're bad at driving, we're submissive women, we are forced to play piano by our parents. Like that's the stereotype of Asian people. But, most of us don't really fit those stereotypes. And when you're reduced to a stereotypes, that's easy to dehumanize people. And I thought if we brought the stories of those people and you listen to their stories and you can relate to them just on an individual level as a human, you can see them as a fully complex human, not a caricature, then that promotes empathy, that promotes understanding, and you can see how much you have in common as opposed to just looking different. And so my hope was that through the podcast people would relate to us more. But then what I didn't realize was that the podcast would become a space for Asian Americans also to just feel like their stories are being told, which was pretty cool, but I totally didn't see that coming.
No, there's not much to add after that. I mean, you said it, you killed it. And so yeah, thank you for so your co-host and I worked on a song around the holidays and it got signed by a library, a music library. So thank you for that, because they were asking me for a specific type of music. I don't speak that language. You knew somebody that did. My normal co-writer was busy with other stuff. You introduced us, so thank you for that. And yeah, so hopefully there's
Yeah, that's
more to
awesome.
come. So yeah, thank you for that. And then lastly, just wrapping it up. So you kind of alluded to this before, but what is in store for you for Sherry? Brand new year, new goals, new themes. You mentioned some more like a modern pop music. You were saying, but
Yeah,
not just
so
like musically. Like yeah, not just musically. What's in store for you individually with the podcast, music, sync, all of that.
yeah, so definitely more of the podcast because I've been loving doing that. I'm mixing a couple of solo piano and solo guitar albums for my husband. We're also we decided to do two new EPs for our 23rd Hour band. One is going to be like jazz standards, and then another one that we just got the idea for the other day. And then I'm also working on an EP as Lazoo. So kind of defining that sound and trying to figure out where I want to go next. Really trying to incorporate some of the themes that I've touched on in the podcast in some of my music because I haven't really talked about those things in my music before. And then I would love to take on more production. I've produced a few artists in the past couple of years. I would love to do more of that. Yeah, and a busy year ahead.
Okay, that's no, that's yeah. You have your plate full, so I won't be. I'll be slow to ask for a collaboration because you might already have your
Oh
plate
no,
full.
ask
So
away. I definitely have your and Ariadne's song on my to-do list.
yeah, and there's no rush in that. I have a lot of stuff that's pending as well. So yeah, so there's no rush on that. Where so before we open up the floor for questions, where can we find you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? Yeah, you could plug all that, and we'll have it in the link as
Yeah,
well once we post it on YouTube. But just for now,
sure. I'm on Instagram and TikTok as It's Lazoo, ITSLAZOU. And then Facebook, I'm still Sherry-Lynn Lee. I'm not really on Facebook that much anymore. I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok these days. But yeah, I think you guys tagged me in the post. So if you want to add me, I'm still Sherry-Lynn over there. I don't use Twitter much. I'm Sherry-Lynn Lee there, but I don't really use it. Twitter sucks. Since Elon, Twitter sucks.
yeah, that's hilarious. So we're gonna open up the floor. If you want to chat
I
your
see.
questions, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
see a few questions in the
Yeah.
chat. Should I
Yeah.
answer
So did
those?
you want me to if you want to read them yourself or I can read them, doesn't matter. Yeah. If you want to ask your question in the chat, that's cool. If you want to ask it on the microphone without being on camera,
Yeah.
that's fine as well.
Okay. All right. So Andrew asked, any general principles to go by or do's and don'ts when collaborating? Always have a split sheet. I would say what I like to do is come up with some ideas ahead of time so that when we go in, there's at least a few options. Because sometimes when I go in, I don't know, my brain just goes blank. So I like having like a few titles or a few ideas that I could bring to the table, and then we could see if any of those pan out or not. Other than that, just being open. I would say, oh, okay, one good tip is when you're writing with someone and let's say they did something and you think it's cheesy or it sucks. My rule is I don't say anything unless I know how to beat it. So I'm not going to say, I don't like that. I'm going to say, what if we did this? Because I feel like if you say, if you just give a negative without any solution, it kind of brings the vibe down. And then, people are going to be very self-conscious about giving you new ideas because what if you shoot the next one down and then the next one down? Like people don't like that. So what I usually do is if I don't like something, I won't say anything until I can think of some other option. Or I can articulate it in a way that will not feel like a put down. You know what I mean? Like maybe at the end, I might say, that I feel like that word isn't quite what we mean. Can we think of a better word for that? And here's why I don't think it works. Yeah, like having a more directed feedback, I feel is very helpful. Because otherwise, we're all artists, we're all kind of sensitive, we all have feelings. So the more you can make it easy for people to open up and just try things and be silly, the more ideas you get to play with and potentially, get better ideas off of that. So that's a really good collaboration tip. Let's see what else. I saw that you work via air gigs and sound better. Can you talk about doing session work, remote client work, etc. would be very valuable. Okay. Yes, I am on air gigs. I have not had any air gigs, by the way. I did get a few from Sound Better. The nice thing about Sound Better is anybody can give you a review. So if you've worked with other people, like, if you've collaborated with people, you can ask them to give you a review on Sound Better. So some of my collaborators have been nice enough to do that for me. So that's good because people generally don't hire you unless you have reviews, which is kind of a chicken and egg thing. I don't really get many gigs from there. Most of the gigs I get for remote, session work is through either Facebook groups where people are looking, like the French one, it was a Facebook group. Somebody was looking for some French top liners, like me. So join a lot of Facebook groups. That's the only thing I use Facebook for these days, honestly. And then, yeah, just networking, like knowing people. The trailer library I work at, they did a covers album. So I asked the owner, hey, can I do some vocals for that album? And so that was a vocal for hire. So really, most of my gigs have come from people I know or Facebook groups or similar, groups. So do all the groups. Any other questions? Could you recommend
Yeah,
some
I think
Facebook
yeah,
groups?
Rosemary. Yep, Rosemary has a question. Yeah, because you added me to like two groups that have been helpful to me.
Oh, I
Make
did? I don't remember.
yeah, Andrew, Mark. Can we say the groups on here? Is that gonna cause any? We can't. Okay, I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Well, yeah, make a pop music was when you added me to Sherry, and that's a large group. As actually the owner, the founder is based here in my city in Orlando, so that's cool. And then the other group you just added me to was it 206 Music Sync Collective or something like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they
Oh
were
yeah.
they were looking for Black artists for was it Black History Month, and you tagged me. I didn't have it was like a deadline, very short. But not to
Yeah.
to
Yeah, their
cut you off. This
deadlines
isn't
are really
about me.
short.
Yeah, it was like by four o'clock today. Like, bro, it's like 2 o'clock. I don't have time to get everything and stuff. So, but yeah, so I ain't mean to cut you off, but yeah, you've been very helpful with different groups. So
Yeah, I'm happy to help. I don't believe in gatekeeping. So, if I can help people, I always do that. Yeah, so Mark mentioned a few of them. NSYNC, What Up Pitches, the Pitch List, 206, as Terrell mentioned, the Taxi Rally one. What else? What else? What else? Let me look at my Facebook because it's not coming off the top of my head. Ask other questions in the meantime while I look it up.
I'm gonna chat out the ones that the two that I'm a
For
part of. I know make pop
for
music is
goodness sake,
more. Yes, that's a good one. Make
for
pop music
goodness
isn't
sake.
really sync specific. That's like all inclusive. There's a lot of different types of people in there, but yeah, this is the
Yeah,
other one.
and then
Trisha
there's
sync.
there's Sync Music for a Change is another one that's by Elena and Justina, Elena and Justina, and then Sync Summit. Uh, there's Sync It by Sonnet and John. Unicorn Sync, which is also Justina and Elaine. Everything Sync Music Licensing, although that group isn't super active. Let's see. There's a few, like there's Women in Audio. If you're in the Bay Area, there's the San Jose music community, but that's not really a sync thing. It's more live music. And then a few of, oh, there's On the Hook for producers. If you want to have like a weekly challenge, there's this group called On the Hook where each week there's a new challenge. Like you get a little sample and then an assignment to do something with it. There's License Your Music with Jody Friedman. I think that's all the groups I am in right now.
That's
I
plenty.
also joined I also joined a few film related ones. I feel like, but I can't see it on my Facebook right now. It's not coming up. I think I have too many groups. Um,
Yeah, you named a lot. So like that's yeah, you gave a
yeah,
nice healthy
all the
list.
groups, people. Go
Give
go to all the groups.
there was a question. I think with she was asking, I guess everybody, Tricia, she's asking, have you all had any placements through these groups or collabs typically? I haven't had any placements from this group in particular, not yet, because I just joined was it 206 like recently, and make a pop music, like I said, that's more all inclusive. It's not just sync. There are people that do sync that are in there, but that's like a wide variety of people. So not yet, but I think it could happen.
I've had a lot of songs that got signed through the groups. I've had one of the film related ones. That's where I got the gig to compose something for the short film. Um, I'm trying to think. I've met a lot of my collaborators through the groups, and then we've gone on to eventually get placements. So it wasn't like a listing that was in the group, but I met people and we worked together, and then we got the same placements. I hope that answers the question.
I see. Yeah, that was very helpful. Because yeah, a lot of the because there's such a wide variety of needs in the group and skills in the group that like yeah, because always we try to. I mean, eventually, I think the sinkhole will be a place that as it grows, you could find people here to work with. But yeah, there are a whole lot of avenues online as well.
Yeah. Um, yeah, any other questions? And yes, 206 is Lauren Light's company. Lauren, Chelsea, and Alex, I believe. Any other questions? No?
Yeah, I'm done with my questions. I don't know if anybody else, like I said, Andrew, were you wanting to keep it open for people if they want to like chop it up and network or
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with just kind of like ending the actual session. And then if anybody just wants to hang out and talk, network,
got you?
chat,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, I have some time to hang out if anybody else wants to hang out, or if you have to go, that's totally fine.
Thanks again to
Yeah, Sherry, thank you. Yeah, Sherry, like I said, you dropped a lot of gems, a lot of solid advice, a lot of cool stories of just like how you grew up and where you grew up. You grew up in one of the most beautiful places that I've seen in film, because I was like, wow, this it's far, but this place is this nice. And so I would love to visit one day because it looks amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I am honored.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I hope you guys found this helpful. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat, you know. I think I think we all have to help each other out in this industry. So I'm always eager to help people, and especially like people who are a little intimidated by our production, for example. Like, okay, this is going to be a story for the people who are not doing production yet, but who have been thinking about it. So I got this brief in one of the groups, and it was for a singer-songwriter song, and I already had a song that matched the description, but it wasn't produced yet. We had a demo, but it wasn't produced yet, and I was not a producer at that time. So I decided, okay, let's give this a shot. The deadline was like 48 hours or something. Pretty fast turnaround. So I was like, okay, we have the song, we have the demo, we just need to track the vocals and then do some arrangement things. So I thought, okay, this needs a toy piano sound in the background. I had no idea what I'm doing, right? So I'm just Googling how to make toy piano sound in Logic. And so I figured out, oh, you do these EQ things and it sounds like a toy piano. Okay. And then the guitar had a few squeaks. Like, okay, how to remove squeaks from guitar? Again, a few little things here and there. And I did very little reverb. I did a couple of harmonies. It was super, like, very stripped down. I sent it in and it got signed. And I was like, really? I was stunned. And I was like, huh, I guess I could do this. So you might be able to do more than you think, is my story.
Where's the wisdom? Once
Yeah.
again.
It's not as hard as it looks. And you just got to figure out what's the next thing that I need to do. Like, I need to find how to make a toy piano sound. Okay, go make a toy piano sound. And other groups that I wanted to mention is Mix Me, that I think a lot of you are part of already. And there's a few others like that where you can post your mix and get advice on what sounds off, because sometimes when you're just starting out, you don't have the ear, you don't hear what's not great about your mix, so just get feedback. And I learned from that, getting feedback, looking stuff up on YouTube. And then, a year afterwards, I look back and I'm like, wow, I had no idea I could do this, but apparently I did all these things already. Yes,
Yeah,
and you can
that's
post for feedback in the Discord.
yes, yeah, because we want. I know we're mentioning a lot of great groups and places. Eventually, like I said, as we grow with the sinkhole, we want to be that. We want to be a place where you can get feedback, to meet collaborators, to be encouraged. Because, like I said, myself, Mark, and Andrew, we set out because we've been helped along the way. Like the placements that we've gotten, the any inkling of anything that we've gotten because of somebody, advising us, giving us some wisdom, some insight. And so we just kind of want to set the tone of this group and just help people, because like Sherry said, like this industry is all about helping people. Like there's too many opportunities out there to keep it to ourselves, right? We can't do every brief, or we can't write to every brief. There's not enough hours in the day. So if I know somebody who's skilled, and or who has the potential to be skilled and to grow, and that could kill this brief, and I can't because I don't have the time, I'm passing that along, because if one wins, then we all win. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, like my story with Resort to Love, like you never know when something that you did like 3 years, 4 years ago might all of a sudden bring you an opportunity.
yes, that's probably a common theme in this part of the business. Things that you've done years ago. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm sorry I wasn't really paying attention to the chat. So if you asked any
No,
questions that I
it's been
didn't
going.
answer,
Yeah, it's been like people were, thanking you for joining us. Taking the time out of your day to join us.